Hello guys, and welcome to this small tutorial in Cartayna files about spotlights. Now you're going to find several spotlight configurations for different planes, but I'm going to use this Majestic 8400 configuration to explain to you how to fine-tune a configuration and why is the need to fine-tune configuration. Now the spotlights have different effects depending on what light configuration are you using if you're using HDR, if you're not using HDR, if you're using HDR default settings, or you're using your own. In my case, I use this HDR configuration, but since I don't want to force you by no means to use my graphic settings, there's a way to make sure that my configuration works for you and it works every time you enter your sim. Now, every time you enter one of my configurations, you're going to find the default, the start minimum lights on, so you can find where to turn on the parking brake and so forth. And in the case of Majestic, I also in the instructions tell you which of the lightings you do of the default plane you do need to use. In the case of Majestic's 8400 is these ones over here, of course, the position light, nav lights, strobes, and so forth. And in the case of the Majestic 8400, the taxi lights are quite decent. I didn't do any of them because I think that they do the job. I mean, they're not incredibly amazing, but they're more than enough. Now, the landing lights, however, are, in my opinion, inside the cabin, they're okay. But if you go outside the cabin, they're really terrible. Also, in my opinion, one of the reasons why we have taxi and landing lights, perhaps not in a passenger plane, but in some of the smaller aircrafts, when you want to land in an uncontrolled field and you don't have any tower that is going to tell you what is the wind direction, and if you're clear to land, there's nothing in the runway and so forth. You might need to do an inspection of the runway, and if you have the lights that don't work, let me try to show you something. Okay, first of all, these are the landing lights that come default by plane. In my opinion, they're way too strong. If you put mine, however, you're going to find there's a big difference. Now you're going to see the texture of the ground. And also, as I say, if you want to do an inspection of the field, let's see if I can do this without crashing the plane. Okay. Now, see, in this case, you might find that these lights are way too strong for you, okay? Now, wait a second. Let me try to stop the plane here. Okay. Now, if they're too strong for you, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to open the configurator, which is right here, and you're going to have to play with this slider here. And once you find the intensity of your liking, make sure once you have it there, turn it off and make sure there's only the minimum starting light, and then save it, because that's the way you're going to find the configuration when you go back into the sim. Now, this is the way to fine-tune it and to make it look as you like it. And let's try to go back to the ground now. If you use the default lighting, let me show you the difference. Hold on. There you go. Now, you're not going to be able to see anything unless you fly very low. And the quality of the light, as you can see before, it's very, very, very strong, and it burns the textures of the ground. These are some of the other settings that you might find on this, that you're going to find on the configuration itself, because it has practically no, I'm going to take off the minimums. It has practically no cabin lights unless you run these lights over here, which are the storm dome lights, which of course you would not be flying with this because you would be going blind, and you need some darkness in the cabin as to be able to see what's outside. Now this configuration has this. I made some funky. Let's see what's going on here. There you go. I made some rear cabin lights so you can see some of the things behind you. And you're gonna find some lights on the side, and of course some flood, light flood and strong flood. And this is a typical Cartayna configuration. We're gonna turn off the landing lights, and we're gonna use ours. I didn't do any taxi lights because I think they're pretty decent, as I say, and they do the job. Unfortunately, there's no way to link the spotlight control panel to the switches itself. I've tried and with FSUIPC, and I was not able to do so. So, yep, this is how to fine-tune the configuration. And if you have any questions, just let us know. You can ask me in the Facebook page or also on this YouTube tutorial. But I'd rather you do it on Facebook page because I go there very, very often. Unlike in the tutorials, I very rarely go back into YouTube. So you have a good day. Bye.